Hey guys, Virtus Education here and welcome back to the Unreal Engine 4 beginner tutorial series. And in today's episode, we're going to be continuing the series and diving into the world of the landscape editor inside of Unreal Engine 4. Now, before I start, I want to show you something. So, look at this, look at that, look at this. Aren't they bloody amazing? Unreal Engine 4 has one of the most robust and powerful terrain editors across all of the engines that I've seen so far, and today I actually want to give you a basic understanding of how the Unreal Engine 4 landscape editor actually works, and we're going to be going over a few of the basic sculpting tools, their settings, and most importantly creating your very first terrain. Now we're going to be creating a few videos covering the landscape editor so I can go over the landscape editor in a fair bit of detail, and we're going to be going over basic sculpting, importing height maps, using your terrain materials, and so on and so forth. So let's just go ahead and close this and dive straight into the action. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new level here because I don't want any of this starter content on here. So to get started, go over to the landscape editor, which you can do by pressing Shift 3 or just pressing the landscape mode button up in the top left hand corner of your user interface. Now we've got two little options up here, one for create new and one from import from file. Now I'm going to be showing you the height map bit in one of the later videos, which is the import from file option, and we can choose a height map that we've generated already, we got from the internet, or whatever you want. But for now we're just going to be creating our very first basic terrain from scratch. So I'm just going to go over some of the basic settings here. So the most important one you've got here is your scale. Now by default it's set to 100 by 100, which is actually quite big. You might want to play around with that. If you want a really big world, you might want it to be 100. If you want just a small little walk around terrain, you might want to set that to 20 and 20. Now the most important bit here is X and Y, which is basically the width and the length, and then obviously you got your Z axis, which is up and down. Don't worry about the Z too much, but for now let's just play around with the X and the Y, and that just changes it. So if I go ahead and play around with these values, like set it to a 5 and a 5, you see it really small. Change that to 55, you see it gets bigger. But for now I'm just going to set this to 20. And you've also got your location just above that as well, which is up here. Now you want to be setting this to 0 0, but one really important thing I want to mention before you create your terrain: always make sure that your player start is level with your terrain, or your player start is above the terrain, otherwise your player will just fall straight through. So it would just like me jumping straight off of this for the player, and they just fall and fall, and that's honestly not that much fun for them. So let's just leave that. And we've got rotation, that's pretty self-explanatory. It just allows us to rotate our terrain if we want to, but for the most part you probably won't ever need to touch that. So we've also got a few other little settings down here. I'm not going to go over all of these, but the important ones are going to be the resolution and the quads. Now the quads are these little blocks here. Basically it defines how many polygons you have. Now the more of these that you have, the more detail that you can have, but obviously the more detail you have on larger terrains, the lower the performance is going to be for the player. But for now, just seeing as we just got a small terrain, I'm going to leave the settings as default. It should have plenty of detail anyway, but if you want to have like super, really realistic, tech demo stuff, you might want to turn the quads up. Or if you're, looking to put this on a mobile game, you might want to turn it down so the player has smooth gameplay, nice and clear, whatever. But and then the resolution's also about detail again. I'm not going to go over that. So let's just go ahead and press create and see what we actually get. Actually, before I do that, let me just go into the material. Now materials inside of Unreal Engine 4 do not work in the same way they did in Unreal Engine 3. Now you actually have to combine all your materials into one terrain material. I'm going to be showing you how to do that in a later video, but for now let's just go ahead and choose a pre-made material. Now you can go ahead and use grass if you wanted to, which probably seems quite a good idea for me, choose whatever you want. I'm just going to go with gravel, and then I'm going to press create, and you're going to see it will generate your terrain here. And if we wanted to, we can press play, and then we can run around on our terrain. But there's really not that much to it at the moment. And also you can see we've got these silly little lines here. So before I actually go into your terrain editing, let me just show you how to get rid of those. Those are actually just issues with lighting. If you go ahead and press build lighting, you can fix those and they will all go. But for now, I'm not going to bother building the lighting until we get to the end. So I'm just going to cancel that straight away. And we're going to start sculpting, because you don't really want to be building the lighting every time you make a single little change. Just do most of the work, build the lighting, and then make any changes that are necessary. So let's go ahead and start sculpting. Now, by default, you should just be able to click and drag, and you should be able to just start sculpting like this. But obviously, you know, you want to have a little bit more control over this. So we've got a few different settings we can play around with. So first and foremost, you've got the brush settings, which allows us to change the fall off and the size. Now the size is the little radius of this little gray area that you can see on your cursor. So if you wanted to be really precise, you could turn that down, and you could, you know, put that little extra effort in. Or if you just want to quickly make like a mountain or something, you could turn your brush size up and just create it in an instant like that. And then you got your fall off, which is basically the distance between the two lines on your brush here. Now the more fall off you have, pretty much the smoother it's going to be. And then obviously the opposite if you turn down the fall off. But I'm just going to leave that at default now. So let's just go ahead and start sculpting using that. So we can just click and drag, and we can sculpt out our basic shapes. We can also play around with the brush strength as well, the tool strength, sorry. So if we wanted it to go up really quickly, I can press 5 and it shoots up. Or if I wanted to just make tiny little precise details, I could set that to 0.1 and it'll do it slowly and gives us a little more precision and accuracy. So that's pretty much sculpting. It's really that simple. And you can see we've got our little mountains or whatever this is supposed to be here now. We've also got a few other little options that we can play around with. The second one is going to be smooth. That essentially just smoothens out the terrain and tries to match the terrain really from both edges and just get, like, you know, the average ground really, and makes it smooth, and you can actually walk over the smooth ground as well. So if I just go ahead and press play from here, I can walk over the smoothed bit, but what I can't do is, you know, go up the direct slopes like this. So if you wanted the player to go up that, you might want to just smooth it out for them a little bit, and then they can do once you've smoothed it out enough. Next you've got flatten. Flatten basically essentially allows us to flatten out the terrain. So wherever I click and then drag from, it's going to flatten the terrain out to that place. So if I wanted a completely flat seabed or something, or the flat part of an island or whatever, you can use the flatten tool for exactly that. So next we've also got the ramp tool, which allows you to create a ramp. Let's just go ahead and do this actually. So if I want to, I can click and drag, and then we have these two little points, and it's going to create a ramp in the terrain. I'm going to move it up real quick, and I'm going to press add ramp, and it will generate a ramp. Now I might go over this in a little bit more detail later, but it is really simple. That's it really. And then we've also got erosion. I showed you how to sculpt up, but I didn't show you how to sculpt down, and that's basically what your erosion is. It allows you to just sculpt down just like this. Now you've got hydro erosion and you've got your normal erosion. Now you've got a few different settings you can play around with here, but I want you to go ahead and experiment with some of these yourself. That's pretty much the very basics for now. I want to show you for the landscape editor. Like I said, I'm going to be going over a whole bunch of more videos for this. Like, I'm going to be showing you how to create your terrain material, I'm going to be showing you how to paint those onto your terrain, and some of the more advanced settings that we have available to us. So that's pretty much everything for this video. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.